secrets that hide in clouds, in radio silence, in the vast empty miles where metal wings carve through the unknown. But sometimes, those secrets slip through. Sometimes, they take the form of a voice, desperate, terrified, and final. If chilling true crime mysteries grip you the way they grip us, hit subscribe right now, drop a like. Diving into a mystery where a pilot's last words left behind a puzzle that has haunted aviation history for decades. This is the story of a plane that carried millions in gemstones, and a man whose final transmission still echoes across static. A routine flight. It was a late summer evening, skies streaked with fading orange, when Captain Aaron Miles prepared for what should have been a routine cargo flight. Miles wasn't a stranger to the skies. At 47 years old, he was described as calm, meticulous, a pilot who treated every checklist like ritual. His colleagues often said he could fly blind through a storm and land smoother than most could on a clear day. His cargo that night, however, was anything but ordinary. Secured inside the fuselage of his modified transport aircraft were millions of dollars worth of uncut gemstones, rubies, sapphires, and diamonds, bound for an international auction. The kind of cargo that drew attention. The kind of cargo that required discretion. The route was simple, a short 3-hour flight across rugged mountain country, then straight into the city where armed transport waited. For Aaron Miles, it was business as usual. He filed his plan. He made his checks. He even joked with ground control about the weight of all that sparkle in the back. Then, at 7:02 p.m., he lifted off. The calm before silence. For the first 2 hours, nothing seemed amiss. Air traffic control logs show clear, steady transmissions. Miles reported good weather, strong tailwinds, and no technical issues. His voice was calm, steady, exactly what everyone expected from him. But at 9:14 p.m., something changed. The log shows an attempted transmission, broken by static. Confirm, traffic. The rest was lost. Controllers assumed interference. It wasn't unusual for this stretch of airspace, where mountains often scattered signals. But less than 3 minutes later, his voice returned, this time sharp, urgent. "Control, I've got." "I don't." The words fractured. Static. Then, a chilling phrase came through, clear as crystal. "They're here." Silence followed. Panic in the tower. Controllers tried desperately to re-establish contact. "Repeat, Captain Miles. Confirm your position. Who is there?" But no response came. Instead, the blip that represented Miles' aircraft flickered on radar, then vanished completely. No mayday. No emergency beacon. No wreckage location. Just a final phrase, and then, nothing. Within minutes, emergency protocols activated. Search and rescue teams scrambled. Helicopters launched. Ground units mobilized. This wasn't just a missing aircraft. This was a high-value cargo flight, one carrying enough gemstones to change lives, or end them. The search begins. Rescue helicopters swept through the night, their spotlights cutting across jagged ridges and deep valleys. Ground teams combed the mountainsides, their radios buzzing with coordinates and clipped updates. And yet, there was nothing. No crash site. No smoke trail. No emergency beacon pinging from the wreckage. By dawn, the only evidence they had was that final transmission. "They're here." But who, or what, was he talking about? Strange inconsistencies. The investigation quickly uncovered strange details that made the mystery even darker. First, the missing beacon. Every aircraft carries an emergency locator transmitter designed to activate on impact. Yet, no beacon signal was ever received from Miles' plane. Second, the radar anomaly. Controllers swore his transponder cut out in an instant, as if switched off, rather than fading the way it typically would during a crash. Third, the radio clarity. Experts later noted that his final words, "They're here," came through unnaturally sharp, almost too clean for an aircraft supposedly losing signal in rugged terrain. Finally, there was the cargo manifest. The company confirmed the gemstones were real. But insurance investigators quickly raised eyebrows. Why fly such a valuable load with only a single pilot, and no armed escort? Why not secure it by ground, or with a multi-crew flight? It was as if the stage had been set for something to go wrong. Theories began to surface. As news broke, speculation exploded. Newspapers ran headlines. $1 million flight vanishes. Pilots haunting last words, they're here. Some believed it was a tragic accident. That Miles had lost control, crashed deep into the mountains, and his body and cargo remained hidden by unforgiving terrain. But others weren't so sure. The fact that no wreckage was ever found fueled whispers of something darker. A hijacking. An inside job. Or something even stranger. Eyewitness accounts. In the days that followed, investigators chased every lead. One farmer swore he saw strange lights moving low over the ridge around the time of the disappearance, lights too silent to be helicopters. Another hiker claimed he heard a roar overhead, followed by a sound like tearing metal, but when he looked up, the sky was empty. None of these accounts aligned perfectly. But together, they painted a picture that unsettled investigators. Was it possible Aaron Miles never crashed? Was it possible the plane, and the fortune inside, had been taken? A voice that won't fade. The most haunting element of this case has always been those 3 words. They're here. Pilots don't waste transmissions. Every word counts, especially in crisis. Whatever Aaron Miles saw, or whoever he saw, he chose those words as his last. Investigators later replayed the recording dozens of times, parsing every tone, every breath, every syllable. Some insisted his voice carried shock, as if he'd seen something unexpected. Others swore it was fear. But no one could explain who they were. Lingering questions. By the end of the first week, the official search scaled back. Government investigators called it a likely crash, unrecovered due to terrain. But among pilots, rescuers, and the public, the questions lingered. Why did his radar blip vanish instantly? Why didn't his beacon activate? And what did he mean by they're here? Without wreckage, without cargo, without a body, the case stood on a foundation of air and whispers. And that's why it still chills us to this day. Share your theories in the comments, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next chilling mystery. Because we will take you deep into the theories, accident, heist, foul play, and even the possibilities that defy reason. The search for Captain Aaron Miles and his cargo plane stretched on for weeks. Helicopters scanned every ridge, divers plunged into mountain lakes, dogs combed the ground for even the faintest trace of wreckage. But there was nothing. No twisted metal. No burned debris. Not even a seat cushion washed downstream. To this day, the mountains where his plane vanished remain silent. No wreckage, no beacon, no gemstones. Only his chilling final words. They're here. So, what happened to Captain Miles and his fortune? To understand the possibilities, we must sift through the theories, each one stranger than the last. The tragic accident. The first and most obvious explanation is the simplest: accident. A sudden storm could have swallowed his aircraft. A stall, an engine failure, or even controlled flight into terrain might explain his disappearance. But here's the problem: accidents leave evidence. Even in the harshest conditions, planes eventually surface. A wing, a tail section, pieces of cargo. Yet, nothing has ever been recovered. And then, there's his transmission. Pilots trained to handle emergencies don't waste time with cryptic words. If Aaron Miles was in mechanical trouble, he would have said, "Engine failure. Losing altitude. Mayday." But he didn't. Instead, he said, "They're here." Those are not the words of a man facing mechanical failure. They're the words of a man facing something, or someone, unexpected. He kept flying. Another theory suggests Miles didn't crash at all. Instead, he might have diverted. Perhaps he realized someone was tracking the cargo, or maybe he received a threat mid-flight. By cutting his transponder and radio, he could have gone dark, landing on a hidden strip where the gemstones disappeared into criminal hands. It would explain the lack of wreckage. It would explain the instant loss of radar. But it raises more questions. Why leave behind a cryptic message? Why risk everything, his license, his life, for someone else's fortune? Unless, of course, he wasn't the one in control. The hijacking theory. This is the theory that refuses to die. Some believe Aaron Miles was intercepted mid-air by another aircraft. A fast-moving jet or helicopter, running dark, closing in on his position. His final words, "They're here," fit this scenario perfectly. A warning, not of machines failing, but of something approaching. In this theory, Miles may have been forced to land. Once on the ground, the gemstones were stolen, the aircraft stripped or hidden, and Miles, silenced. Skeptics point out that hiding an entire cargo plane is no small feat, but history tells us it's possible. In remote mountain ranges, planes have gone unseen for decades. Some are only discovered when a hiker stumbles across scattered debris years later. And if the hijackers had resources, they could have dismantled the plane, carried off the gemstones, and erased every trace. Still, it leaves one haunting question. Why hasn't even a scrap surfaced since? Foul play from within. There are those who believe the danger wasn't from the skies, but from inside the operation itself. The shipping company's decision to fly millions in gemstones with a single pilot was questionable at best. Some investigators quietly suggested the entire flight was staged. That Miles may have been part of the plan, lured by the promise of fortune. In this theory, the final transmission, "They're here," was a cover, designed to throw off suspicion, to make it seem as though he was ambushed. But if that were true, why hasn't he surfaced? Why hasn't the cargo? Why vanish so completely when money is useless if you can't spend it? Unless Aaron Miles trusted the wrong people. Unless he helped orchestrate the disappearance, only to be double-crossed and silenced. And then, there are the theories that don't fit into neat categories. Some point to predatory attacks from the sky, massive birds of prey or sudden weather phenomena. Others whisper of government experiments in the region, radar interference, or secret operations hidden deep in the mountains. But among the strangest theories is one fueled by eyewitnesses. Those mysterious lights. Silent, fast-moving, unlike helicopters. That roaring sound followed by nothing. The radar blip that didn't fade, it vanished. It's no surprise that some speculate Aaron Miles saw something unexplainable. That his final words, "They're here," were not about hijackers or criminals, but something outside human expectation. UFO? Experimental craft? Or something even darker? Skeptics dismiss it, but the truth is, no theory fits all the facts. What makes Aaron Miles' disappearance so disturbing is how it defies closure. Most missing aircraft are eventually found. Wreckage surfaces. Cargo is recovered. Families find answers, even if painful. But not here. Here, the mountains kept their secret. All that remains is a chilling voice across static. "They're here." A fortune in gemstones vanished into thin air. And with it, a man whose professionalism should have been his safeguard. Instead, his story has become one of aviation's most unsettling mysteries. The air traffic controller who heard Miles' last words still remembers them vividly. He later said, "It wasn't just fear in his voice. It was surprise. Like he was staring at something he couldn't explain. And then, he was gone." Imagine that. Being the last person to hear a man alive. Hearing the fear, the disbelief, knowing he was only moments from something no one has ever explained. That is the chilling weight of this case. Decades later, Aaron Miles' name still appears on missing person lists. The gemstones remain unaccounted for. And aviation historians still debate the case in hushed tones. Did he crash? Was he hijacked? Or did he encounter something that words and evidence can't define? We may never know. If this story unsettled you, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Could it have been a tragic accident, a crime in the skies, or something stranger? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more.